Much for joining us today to go through a relatively new topic. So we're going to be talking about GEO for schools and educational organisations. I'm recording this session, so I will make sure that a copy is sent out to everybody that's registered after the event. In the bottom right-hand corner, you've also got the ability to ask questions. So I've left plenty of time at the end of the session to answer any questions that you might have. But do feel free to interrupt me as we go along. I'm very happy to stop and answer any questions that you might have about how a particular slide applies to your school or organisation. So yeah, feel free to interrupt as much as you want. So we are going to talk through what it actually is. Why does it matter at the moment? We'll talk a little bit about how it differs from traditional search and some of the differences with SEO, which is probably something that you've looked at in the past. We'll talk a little bit about what actually influences your visibility in generative search results, some practical strategies that you could start to use straight away, so stuff that isn't too overly complicated. And then we will talk a little bit about GEO and SEO, because it's important that you don't just focus on one and damage the other. So we'll go into a little bit of detail around that. And then just to help you understand how it could apply to your type of organization or your situation, we'll go through a couple of real world examples and use cases where different organizations could be applying GEO to help their marketing. So in terms of how parents and customers within the education sector currently look for an organization to kind of engage with. Traditionally, that's been Google. There are other search engines, but traditionally it's been Google. So, for example, a parent might search for the best independent school near me. They might be searching for employability linked to particular qualifications for their children or particular examinations, and they would be Googling those things to find the search results. Whereas now we know that people are using platforms like ChatGPT to ask questions. So, for example, which schools are best for children with dyslexia? So they're expecting that answer to come to them and to be summarized for them, rather than them having to go and search through a website to find that information. It's worth noting that that isn't a million miles away from how people use search engines, and there is a lot of overlap between ranking higher in search engines and ranking higher and appearing in generative overviews and platforms like ChatGPT. If you were to see them as very different topics, then I think you could potentially be losing out on quite a significant amount of traffic. So this is the shift that we've seen in terms of the setup of marketing teams, agencies, and the work that they do. So traditionally, success was measured through search engine results pages. So where are you actually appearing in the search engine, and SEO driven discovery. So optimizing content so that people are actually coming through to your website. That's all about website clicks. It's all about links within copy and links from other sites, and how that impacts your ability to rank within the search results. Typically, people will be aiming for the first page at the very least, or ideally in the kind of top 5 of search results. Whereas AI-powered search has kind of moved to conversational answers and recommendations within summaries. There's fewer clicks that people are taking. They're just expecting to be able to put in the question and have something like Google AI overview summarize the situation or summarize the information that they're looking for. So to a certain degree, that AI curated result has a lot more power than the search results that you might see in Google, because it dictates the information that somebody sees and it summarizes that information and gives them the answer without them looking at further content. It also directs answers inside AI tools. And the key platforms that we're seeing are ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, the Google AI overviews, so that's at the top of Google search results, and to a certain degree, Microsoft Copilot, although that's not something that's kind of become as big as the other platforms, just because it's often included with Microsoft Office is something that some users are using. So what actually is it? So in terms of the acronym, it stands for Generative Engine Optimisation, and it's the process of improving your organization's visibility within the AI-generated answers, recommendation summaries, and conversational search experiences that people are starting to rely on more. So it focuses on being referenced by those AI tools, being recommended in generated responses. So, for example, if somebody's asking for a recommendation through AI, it requires you to be that answer, really. Being cited as a trusted source. So AI's got to see you as a trusted source. That's not necessarily the case with search engines. Although you could argue that something like Google AI Overview and Google Search, very similar in their ability to successfully rate something as a trusted source. And the actual process of making these improvements are around structuring information so those AI systems can understand it, and they can bring that information quickly to the surface to respond within their response to whoever's asking a question. It doesn't replace SEO. It's not about trying to game the system. So you may remember if you used SEO a long time ago, there was a lot of people out there kind of jamming in as many keywords as possible, maybe repeating those keywords 10 times in articles. Again, that didn't work back then. It's not going to work for GEO. And it's definitely not something that is a short-term hack. As with SEO, it does take time. Although, as I'll come to at the end of the presentation, one thing that I think is really important to take away from today is a lot of people aren't focusing on this within the education sector. So if you can get in there early, you've got the ability to rank for things where other people perhaps haven't been considering it. Whereas SEO, lots of people are kind of fighting over keywords, so there is more competition. So why do organizations need to pay attention within the education sector? Both parents and students, they're already using AI tools to compare schools, research courses, explore things like universities or find tutoring support, discover extracurricular opportunities, evaluate wellbeing support, access SEND provision, compare fee structures for independent schools, for example, but also to explore careers pathways. So if you're not coming up in some of these questions that people might be asking in your area, then you're going to find that you're kind of missing out, and you're already going to start becoming invisible in those early stages of research that people will conduct. It's worth mentioning that websites are still very important. It's not a case of suddenly get rid of your focus on your website. Parents and pupils and customers, they are going to be going to those websites. They are going to be researching you. This is very much about those early stages when people are doing initial research. So if your name's coming up, A, that's great brand awareness, but B, that's typically going to be that first touch point that will encourage people to go to your website and find out more information. These are just some of the things that customers within the sector are using AI tools for. So although I've put GEO versus SEO, GEO and SEO both work together. If you, and I've said this a few times this afternoon, but if you were just to focus on one, I think you'd be kind of shooting yourself in the foot, really. But SEO and GEO, they do focus on different things. They optimize for different things. So whereas SEO is all about rankings, GEO your metrics, your KPIs that you'd be setting yourself, they'd be more focused around mentions and recommendations within those generative platforms. So in SEO, you're going to be optimizing for search engines. So you're going to be trying to look at how you can be ranking higher. That might be about keywords, and that might be about backlinks. Whereas within AI systems, you might be optimizing questions within your website that people might be asking within those AI systems. So those AI systems can quickly find you. So both are going to be about trying to get you recognized by your target audience. But it's just worth mentioning with GEO, it's not really as focused on getting those clicks through to your website. You would hope that those people seeing those responses will come back to your website at some point. But at the moment, it doesn't seem to be that people click straight through to the website. It's more about that brand recognition. It's more about that first touch point. And then people will take that next step either separately in that current session, or they will come back to it in the future. So that context of any information you have is going to be very important in GEO. To a certain degree, that is quite the complicated element of GEO. Getting the AI systems to understand whatever the information is that it's drawing in the context of the rest of the information on your website, or in particular for that page. And authority for both SEO and GEO really matters. So that authority ranking that your website has. And if you do want to know that, if you don't know how to look that up, feel free to email me when I send out the recording. I'd be happy to kind of look up your authority score just so you can see how it compares to other people. Backlinks are less of a focus for GEO. Doesn't mean that backlinks are irrelevant. For SEO, there has been a bit of a decline in terms of the importance of backlinks. But for GEO, it's really not as relevant as it was for SEO maybe 2 to 3 years ago. I apologize, this slide has formatted incredibly poorly. So I'll talk through what it's meant to be talking about. So how does it actually work? So typically within Google, for example, a user would type a query, search engine ranks those pages, user then clicks that link, spends some time looking through the website, and you'd be able to report on things like your bounce rate. But the user is there looking for the answers to their questions themselves. The good thing about that is that they can go on a little bit of a journey. So if they're interested in, say, a school from the point of view of well-being, they then might be researching about the approach to learning difficulties, or they might be researching about the care side of the school, and they might be looking at content across multiple pages. Whereas with generative search, typically it's a single question being asked, definitely initially. It's very conversational. AI is gathering information from multiple sources to answer that question. It will then summarize that information and remove bits it deems to not be relevant, and it presents a direct answer to that question. The user at that point may click through, or they may go to the website separately, but there's also a significant chance that the user will never click through to our website. So it's just worth bearing that in mind, that is there a way that you can engage with those people if they were to see you on other platforms? So for example, if you're running pay-per-click or you're doing out of home, is there a way that you could be kind of converting those people that are asking those questions if they're not going directly to your website when they're researching your service, your school, whatever it might be? So those AI models, when they're doing this work, they're looking for trustworthy information. So going down to number 4, that's kind of linked to authority. They are looking for a very clear structure in terms of being able to find that information quickly. So if you've got landing pages or frequently asked questions sections, they can work really well if they're just focused on a very clear question and answer structure. So we'll come on to some kind of quick wins, but that's a really nice quick win to kind of consider how could you be asking some of these questions on your website and then answering them in a very clean and clear way. It's looking for consistency, so you can't be answering questions one way on one landing page and then in a different way, say on your homepage or a different landing page. Is looking for expertise, so again, connecting that information to other information that's on your website and looking for the age of that domain, a wide range of different things. So quite complicated areas, but stuff that you would expect within the education sector to be relatively easy for you to tick that box for. Relevance to that question, so you can't start, if you're in the education sector, you can't start kind of answering medical questions, for example, and up-to-date content. As with SEO, regularly kind of updating and cleaning content is really relevant, but also posting new copy is very relevant as well. So I've given some detail here, so if anybody needs this presentation afterwards, I'm very happy to send it across to you. I've got a PDF version of it, so I can send it across to you. But these are the types of things that at the moment, as part of our GEO service for clients, we're seeing is currently having the biggest impact on visibility within AI search. So that website authority, which is all about domain reputation, it does have, to a certain degree, a reliance on trusted backlinks still. Anything mentioned in news or the press, and any kind of educational partnership. So if you've got partnerships and you're linking through to those sites and those sites are linking through to you, that can help with website authority. So if that's something that you've got on your to-do list to update, I would recommend that you consider updating that over the summer. Clear content structure. So make sure that you've got a frequently asked questions section, it's been updated. Make sure that you've got headers and subheaders to give structure. So structured pages is really important. Ideally, a consistent structure across similar pages. And plain English explanations, remembering that people will be searching for plain English questions in the vast majority of cases. So you want to be kind of matching that with the types of language people will be using when they're searching. And then that expertise bit can come from a number of different routes, but in-depth subject coverage can really, really help. So sometimes that could have been a disadvantage to something like SEO, where you're writing too much information. But with GEO, you can get a good balance in terms of proving that you're an expert in this area by going into detail. Insights and references to anything that you're kind of stating will really help. Thought leadership, so regularly putting out content, maybe articles or newsletters within your website around kind of thought leadership. And then any specialist expertise will really help, because as people start to use AI increasingly, you don't know when that information is suddenly going to be relevant to people, or perhaps potentially trending as a topic. So if you do have specialists within your organization on particular topics, or experts within a particular area, make sure that you're still kind of gathering that information, you're giving it space within your website, because it will help you when people are asking niche questions, and you can come across as the expert within that area. So where those backlinks are still kind of relevant will be in terms of brand mentions, but within AI search results or generated results, one interesting thing is that those reviews don't necessarily always have to link through to you. So if you do have lots of reviews, then that's going to really help. Media coverage, ideally positive media coverage. Forums, so potentially parent forums for schools or for exam boards or for tutors, whatever it might be that your organization does. Or if you were, for example, a training provider, it might be that L&D providers or HR specialists within something like HR Ninjas, they're talking about your organization, your services, your training. That's going to be really relevant, I think, because traditionally those things didn't really help, because those people wouldn't necessarily have a link, wouldn't be providing a link through to your website. Whereas now those mentions of your brand name are going to start counting. So For any of you who have a great reputation, but not necessarily a large number of backlinks, I think that'll put you in a strong position. Directory listings, so making sure that you're in relevant directories, and then social discussions on social media, LinkedIn, whatever it might be. So again, going back to that training provider example, if you're on LinkedIn, that's going to be really relevant. Or if there's parent groups within things like Facebook and you're a school, that's going to be really relevant for you. Consistency of information, so making sure that you have very structured content, as I say, and keeping that structure against similar types of pages. So if you've got a page for particular questions that people might ask, making sure that there's a consistency in the format of that information. And then just making sure that if you've got standalone landing pages, things like your contact details are still within that standalone page. It just helps to tie everything together. It's a small little quirk. Anything that you've got around kind of course information, make sure that you're keeping that clean and tidy so that when AI is looking at the information and it's quickly making all of these connections, it's not confused by the course information being different on different pages. And that's really difficult, especially if sometimes you've got PDFs with that information. Sometimes you've got landing pages. Sometimes you have course information on your website, and all of that needs to be updated. But it is really important. Any fees or pricing or costs need to be consistent because these are the things that it's using as a point to join that information up. Again, locations, you can't just bombard different locations as keywords, as some people might have done in the past with SEO. And again, policies, because they're typically consistent across pages, they are going to be used by AI to kind of join up that content, so it really does understand that information on different pages is consistent and accurate and trustworthy. And then, as with SEO, that technical accessibility is really important. So your website should load fast. It should be mobile optimized. It should be have data structured in a very clear way behind the scenes. And you do need to make sure, of course, that your pages are crawlable. So if you're wondering why particular content isn't appearing, say, in search results and in AI overviews, that may be the case. It may be that that part of your website's just not being crawled. And you can create a new sitemap, and you can then resubmit that to Google if you feel that's the case. So towards the end of this presentation, I just want to talk through how kind of the foundations are really similar. You're going to see lots of similarities with SEO. So AI systems still need content to learn from, and high-performing GEO content needs to be helpful, clear, specific, structured, comprehensive, expert-led, and frequently updated. The number of times that we've seen websites out there creating content using AI because it's easy to do, kind of almost spamming the internet with content, those people just don't rank within either SEO or GEO. They may do temporarily, and that sometimes gives people an unfair kind of boost to that approach. But it is not a long-term strategy. And it also means that people typically don't engage with your website, and it will increase the bounce rate that you have. So even if you did that and you did appear in, say, ChatGPT's summary response, what you would then find is when that user then goes to your website, either at that point or at a later time, they will not necessarily engage with that content because it won't be helpful, it won't be clear, and it won't be specific to their situation. So strong types of content for the education sector includes things like frequently asked questions, parents' guides, student support resources, curriculum explainers, admissions guidance, send support pages, career pathway content, thought leadership articles, case studies, and success stories. These can be for students within school. They could be people taking part in a training course. They could be parents looking up parent guides for a nursery, for example. Wherever you sit within the education sector, these are things that will help you with both GEO and SEO as well. So in terms of real world examples, these are the types of things that we're seeing people asking and coming up in the tools that we use for GEO. So for example, independent schools, parents are asking which independent schools in X region has strong pastoral care and dyslexia support. So very plain English questions, but there is quite a good level of detail there. It's not necessarily something that people would be Googling, because when they're Googling, they're expecting something that is relevant and then for them to do the research. Whereas with AI, they're wanting a lot more information summarized for them in one go. Universities, so for example, what UK universities are best for careers in AI and cybersecurity. Again, very direct and to the point. Colleges, training providers, which colleges offer flexible adult learning with evening classes. Again, almost 2 sections there to the question about, well, 3 sections there, so flexible adult learning and evening classes. It may well have been that somebody just searched for kind of adult learning evening classes in Google. There's a bit more kind of detail there with AI. International schools are going to be very kind of location heavy in terms of the content. But what are the best British curriculum schools in Dubai for STEM? Quite precise questions. So if you know that people are coming to open days or they're asking these questions of staff, collect those questions so that you can be using them on your frequently asked questions pages and any content pages as well. So what do you do? What do you then go and do with this knowledge that things are shifting? I personally would be going to improve any frequently asked question content, answer real parent and student questions, real learner questions, real customer questions that are coming through. So if you're a business, you might be having questions coming through at the moment from your website or customers or chat functionality on your website. Use those questions to produce a frequently asked questions section that is relevant. Use clear headings, so make pages easier for AI systems to interpret them. Create clusters within topics, so build depth around key subjects. So if you know that people are interested in something, so if you go back to, for example, the first example listed here. So if you know people are looking for pastoral care and they're looking for dyslexic support, create that as a cluster. So have information around dyslexia support and pastoral care. Publish expert-led content. So ideally, if you've got people within your organization that are already to some degree known as an expert with a topic, you could be starting there. That could be educators, that could be leaders, it could be a variety of people within your organization. And then just structure everything behind the scenes as much as possible, so that AI is able to analyze that content. Get somebody else through for your website. That's always really helpful, so you can improve that website clarity. Ideally, 10 plus people would be doing that, but I appreciate that's not always possible. But make sure that you're avoiding any kind of jargon-heavy messaging and using words that people on AI wouldn't necessarily be using. Keep that information updated, so have a little bit of a process or a calendar that just kind of allows you to go back into your website and update anything that might be outdated, because it damages that trust element for AI. Look for anything that you can do to gather reviews, get PR, awards, partnerships, anything that will give you backlinks, but also will give you some of those brand mentions wherever it might be, even if that doesn't include backlinks. And look for things like education directories, associations, and publications that could be giving you some of those high authority backlinks. And then monitor your AI visibility. If you're working with an agency such as ourselves, we would be doing those reports for you. But a very quick, free way to kind of get a little bit of insight is just to use some of these platforms to some of the questions that parents or learners or customers might have and see whether you're coming up in the search results. So what's next? In terms of key kind of takeaways, AI is becoming that first port of call, which is, I think, very, very interesting that people kind of had a very quick shift away from literally Googling things. Fewer clicks are involved. People might come back to you, they might not, they might pick up the phone, they might email you, they might fill in a form. Those journeys are a little bit more blurred. People are wanting more conversational interfaces, and therefore you're going to need to be updating content to be more conversational. They want personalized recommendations and information. So those clusters of topics are going to be really important so that they can get multiple parts of a question answered from the same source. And people are also wanting a search experience that kind of gathers information from multiple places. You could be starting to kind of work through building that authority first of all. Hopefully you're already doing reasonably well in that area. Create genuinely useful content. Improve that discoverability by using some of those questions in a conversational way within your website. Strengthen any digital trust you can with links and reviews and social references, and then continuously adapt by making these updates, running those searches within AI a week later and seeing how it's changed as it's pulled through and it's is gathered by AI. It does offer a major opportunity in our view. If you've got any questions that kind of come up when you're implementing some of these things, do let us know. It is a service that we offer, so if you're interested in that, do let me know as well. A massive topic to cover in half an hour. Hopefully it was a good introduction rather than too much information. But does anybody have any questions at all for me?